Okay, I am going to get started then. So here's always another person as soon as I say that. Anyway, hi everybody. I am so pleased to welcome you to the launch of our second annual climate series. I'm Sophie Smith, the Assistant Director of the York Public Library, and we are so pleased to have you. We are recording this program on Zoom tonight, so you'll notice that it might pop up a message telling you that you can enable closed captioning if you need to by a toggle at the bottom of your screen. You can also use that area to turn on or off your video or to unmute when the time comes to ask questions at the end of our program. But for now, I am going to get started. Just one moment. Everyone practice their screen sharing except me. So here we go. So everyone should be able to see my screen right now. So welcome to our climate program. This is, as I said, the second annual climate series that we've done here at York Public Library. Last year, we focused more on the need and the urgency of taking action on climate change, all of which was to culminate in the passage of the Climate Action Plan in May of 2022, which York voters did with astounding support, which is absolutely wonderful. This year, York Public Library has been working with York Ready for Climate Action to put together a program series about what individuals can do to make change in their carbon emissions, in reducing their greenhouse gases in alignment with the Climate Action Plan. And we're really pleased to have 8 programs put together. All of this was done with support of Ron McAllister, who has really helped guide this into a great program, and we've pulled in a bunch of people throughout the town and throughout the state who have been really great partners in pulling this together. So I know you don't want to hear too much about this, you want to hear about the good stuff tonight, but I'm going to tell you a few more pieces of information about the upcoming programs that we have at the library. So as you know, tonight we are at the passage of the Climate Action Plan. Now what? We're going to answer that question here tonight, but later this month we're going to look at weatherization and heat pumps and how those can be used to address energy concerns in your home. I'm sure everybody experienced the super cold weather this past weekend and probably knows exactly where in their house is a little bit vulnerable to that temperature. So this is a good chance to come and learn more about weatherization and how that can support your needs. March, we'll be looking at some different electrification things. One, electric vehicles and their charging infrastructure. Looking at different car models, but also looking at the statewide network of charging, public charging, home charging, and all the different ways you can kind of make that work. And that will be super interesting. We're also going to have a program at the end of March about solar options, everything from putting solar panels on your own house to purchasing a share of an off-site solar farm, or even just doing a simple thing like changing your electricity supplier to a solar company. All of those will be discussed in fall. In April, we're looking a little bit more at the financial side of things. One of those will be looking at the residential offerings from Efficiency Maine, who helps with rebates and tax credits and other incentives for doing this work in your home. But we'll also be looking at investment work that you could consider. A lot of us have money tucked away somewhere, and we don't think anywhere about who it's benefiting right now. But this will give us a chance to intentionally examine how we are accidentally supporting some of the things that we don't want to, by where we're putting our investments. And then finally, at the end of in May, we have 2 different programs that are really quite fun. One will be in partnership with York Land Trust and the Center for Wildlife to look at climate-friendly lawns and gardens and how our home environment can impact the big picture of the climate, and how we can do a better job of maintaining or not maintaining our lawns to support the natural world around us. And then finally, on May 24th, we'll be having an in-person sort of finale celebration, which will be looking at food systems and sort of how the food chain works from creation to disposal and how that impacts climate and greenhouse gas emissions, but also sort of how to do it sustainably and how to have fun while doing so. So I'm really excited about this. I hope everyone will come out in person to participate in this final program because it's going to be a really wonderful time. I also wanted to mention that the library has been doing a lot of work to sort of engage with the idea of sustainability. We've recently joined something called the Sustainable Libraries Initiative program, which involves looking at the triple bottom line definition of sustainability and evaluating all of our library services for being environmentally sound, socially equitable, and economically feasible. This work is doing a lot to guide us in how we approach the programming, the services, and everything that we do as a library in our community. And I look forward to sharing more with you about this as our program series continues. But that's not why you're here tonight. You're really here to hear from the members of our community who are taking the steps forward with our climate action plan and what they would like to see happen. So we have Dylan Smith, who's the planning director and interim assistant town manager. And we have Rozanna Patane and McAbee from York Ready for Climate Action to tell us about what comes next for citizen-driven initiatives. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Dylan to tell us more about the town side of things.
Great. Thanks, Sophie. Hello, everybody. I'm Dylan Smith, Planning Director and current interim assistant town manager. Thanks for coming out tonight. Let me just try to do some sharing. All right. Can everybody see what's going on? I hope so. So I was asked by Sophie tonight to really talk about and look at and evaluate and mention what the town is doing or trying to do to move the climate action plan forward. As most of you know, the climate action plan was about a year and a half long planning process, ultimately culminating in a very positive vote by the voters and an adoption in May of 2022. It was really an integral and quite the process, with much work by the York Energy Steering Committee, the Planning Board, the Select Board, and all the many volunteers that helped bring it forward. Came out of years of planning and preparation to get it done, including the town's willingness to sign on to the Global Covenant of Mayors, which was a real driving point in trying to get a climate action plan in place to really provide a roadmap for preparing and adapting to climate change. And so it was quite from a planning perspective, it was really great to see and really a great process. And I hope everybody learned a lot from it. I certainly did. This slide kind of shows, I really like this slide. It shows the climate action plan community engagement process. Again, it really did take the whole town as part of it. There was tons of outreach. There were many focal points for people to evaluate and look at and to communicate not only their opinions, but their ideas. And as you can see, the committee really did a good job of getting out there in the public and in the public realm to really capture that.
Dylan, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know if your slides aren't progressing, but I still see your first one with the town seal on the title page.
Oh, really? It's progressing on my side.
Oh, maybe I'm the only one. Sorry. All right, so let's move on then to Mac and we will come back to Dylan once his computer is behave. Hopefully his computer will behave and he can fill us in on his piece of the puzzle. But hopefully that works out for you, Mac, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Okay, McAbee's my name. Yeah, thanks so much for this great turnout. It's great to see how many people have come today. So, just briefly, I'm with a local citizens organization called YRCA for Climate Action. We call it YRCA, not to be confused with the YMCA. We sort of somewhere along the line we've taken the YMCA jingle and switched it to YRCA. That's a video somewhere from a couple of years ago on the computer. If I would have been thinking, I would have brought that up, but I didn't. It just dawned on me now. So we consist of 20 or so citizens in town, and we all feel passionately about this existential threat of our changing climate. And I say most of us are motivated by a deep concern about the effects of the climate's going to have on our children and our grandchildren. Basically, just what kind of planet are we going to leave for them? We started 5 years ago with the name York Ready for 100%, a name chosen because of a loose association with the Sierra Club. Along with the town's energy steering committee and Rozanna, we worked to persuade the select board to commit to specific greenhouse gas emission reductions with dates attached. Dylan made reference to join the Global Covenant of Mayors, and that's essentially what the select board did. That was in the summer of 2019. After that, we pivoted to climate action. I'm gonna try share screening here, so hold on to your hats, guys. Can you see that okay?
Looks good.
Yes.
So, we developed specific programs. So this included our flagship program, York Eco Homes. I think many of you are familiar with York Eco Homes. It's basically a program for single-family homes. Periodic actions are provided, demonstrating how to decrease greenhouse gas emissions in the home. And we've had over 600 households sign up to receive these actions. Another program is our RAD committee, Waste Reduction and Diversion. We think of RAD as our sustainability committee. It's an outgrowth of the successful ban on single-use plastics, bags, and styrofoam. And RAD's efforts have centered around food waste composting and discussions with Hannaford's on decreasing single-use plastic packaging. So in addition to these programs, again, Dylan made reference to the planning of the Climate Action Plan. Many of our group were involved in that and the development of the Climate Action Plan during the summer of 21. So let's talk for a minute about the town's Climate Action Plan, or CAP. What's it all about? It's essentially a list of strategies, a blueprint for our town to address the crisis of our changing climate. This may be old for many of you, but I thought it'd be worthwhile just reviewing. These strategies can be divided into two different categories. The first relates to decreasing the causes of our changing climate, essentially the burning of fossil fuels, whether it's gasoline, heating oil, or propane. These are called mitigation strategies. How can we as citizens eliminate the use of fossil fuels in our everyday lives? How can the town incentivize this with modeling and ordinances? The second set of strategies addresses the effects of climate change. What can the town do about the consequences of rising sea levels, the increased frequency of floods and droughts, the many health effects of our changing climate, and so on? These are termed adaptation strategies. Our organization, YRCA, is concerned primarily with the mitigation side of things, with mitigation strategies. That is helping our citizens to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our community. This is reflected in our mission statement. YRCA is a grassroots citizens organization dedicated to increasing awareness of the causes and effects of climate change and advancing environmentally friendly and inclusive policies and behaviors. In simpler terms, we're fossil fuel use, through education, outreach, support and coaching, and advocacy. Let's turn again to the town's climate action plan. We learned through the climate action plan that our households are responsible for approximately 80% of the town's greenhouse gas emissions through heating our homes, driving our cars, using electricity, and creating waste. This was a big surprise for me. I thought town entities such as our schools, water district, sewer district, municipal government would be major contributors. Not so. Clearly, the sector on which to concentrate our efforts to decrease greenhouse gas emissions is found in our homes and cars, in citizen actions or citizen decisions. From this slide, I want you to note in particular the significant role of heating fuel in these greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, heating fuel, if you added in commercial use, heating fuel makes up, just about half of the town's greenhouse gas emissions. Again, a real surprise. Clearly, installing heat pumps and paying attention to weatherization is of huge importance here. Okay, so citizens need to make changes in their lives, but who in the town is responsible for motivating citizens to decrease emissions? This is not spelled out in the Climate Action Plan. 4 town committees have a role: the Recycling Committee, the Energy Steering Committee, the Conservation Commission, and the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. But as town committees, they have constraints, and there's no mandate in their mission statement to address greenhouse gas emissions generated by citizens. There is a discussion about developing a CAP committee or a sustainability committee at the town level. This committee would probably set priorities, but it wouldn't be in the trenches doing direct climate action. Therefore, it appears that this particular role falls on the shoulders of our organization. Recognizing this reality, we decided to change our organizational structure. We set about jumping through all the various hoops to become a true nonprofit. In December, we received our federal 501c3 designation, allowing us to solicit grants and individual contributions. Last spring, with input from the community, our board of directors held a series of strategic planning sessions. We developed a list of potential projects, and then more recently, we hired a part-time executive director, a local individual, well-known in the community with extraordinary credentials. Finally, we changed our name. So many of you may have noticed by YRCA Ready for 100%. We changed it about a year ago to YRCA Ready for Climate Action, which really is more in keeping with our mission statement and what we do. Let's stay with the Climate Action Plan for a minute and see how it informs our work. There are 8 focus areas in the Climate Action Plan. If we look at them from, again, that lens of mitigation and adaptation that I just mentioned, there are some that clearly fall into one or the other strategy, and there are a couple that don't. So this slide lists the 8 CAP focus areas. The top 4, the buildings, mobility, renewable energy, and waste goals are in the mitigation strategy. Infrastructure and community resilience is in the adaptation category. Natural resources, equity, and leadership / capacity goals cut across mitigation and adaptation. I would encourage you to check out the Climate Action Plan online. How do you do that? The easiest way I've found is to go to the town website and in the search bar, just put in a Climate Action Plan. And it's pretty easy that way to bring up the plan. So as I mentioned, the first focus areas here involve the causes of local greenhouse gas emissions. YRCA has looked at how we can impact these areas. Again, we see our role as providers of information and education, of doing outreach to as broad a swath of the community as possible, and providing support and coaching. And finally, taking advantage of opportunities for advocacy at the local and state levels. So let's look at some areas of our interest and involvement. I'm going to lay out 12 of them. Most of these are aspirational. Number one, our RAD and Eco Homes programs. We're already involved in these focus areas. They'll continue their work. Number two, we're going to continue with our York Weekly column. It comes out every 2 weeks. I think it's the weeks that Ron's column doesn't come out. This column's called Getting Ready, and it's been in the paper for, I believe, 3 years. Number three, we're expanding our social media presence. 4, taking a role in helping the disadvantaged in our community is a crucial responsibility, helping to get involved in the growing energy revolution. 5, we anticipate that our website will become a go-to resource for information and resources on vital areas such as heat pumps, weatherization, solar, do-it-yourself suggestions, energy conservation, etc. Number 6, we're developing an energy coaches program, which will be described in a few minutes by Rozanna. This program will support homeowners and renters as they move off fossil fuels. Number 7, we anticipate outreach programs to new homeowners and businesses. 8, we help to develop this lecture series in partnership with the library staff, and we plan to co-host an energy fair, hopefully with an electric vehicle fair sometime in the spring. Number 9, and this is really crucial, we recognize that the Inflation Reduction Act is a game changer. It was passed by the federal government in August and dramatically decreases the out-of-pocket costs for fossil fuel alternatives in people's homes. We'll spread the word about the many benefits of this act. Suddenly, there are real savings available as homes move away from fossil fuels. Number 10, question, why are the 100+ homes in the new development in the middle of York to be heated with fossil fuels? In new construction, these heating systems will be around for 20+ years. Is this in keeping with our town's greenhouse gas reduction goals? What can be done to pressure for change here? How might we be involved? How might you be involved? Number 11, we have representation in Augusta that's concerned about climate change policy, the special interests of theirs. What can we do to support their efforts? And number 12, there are organizations statewide that are similar to ours. Sharing information and strategy among these groups will enhance our effectiveness. Long list, and there's plenty more, but we'll tackle it. Our only obstacles are limited capacity in both volunteers and funding. You can help change that. Which of the above issues stirs your interest? Consider volunteering with us. Your ideas and your time can make a big difference in our new organization. You can sign up to volunteer on the website up on the screen. And of course, I have to add that if you choose to want to donate to our mission, there is a donate button also on the same website. See how well we've consolidated things here. So donation is very simple. So one final thought, last thought. This is a favorite slide of our organization, and it's brought to you courtesy of one of our long-term volunteers, Carrie Mayo, as well as Howard Zinn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. So Dylan, is your computer ready to go, or should we go to?
I'm just going to go for it. And if I have to just speak, that's just fine. We'll just I'll just serenade you with my wonderful voice and lull you all into a state of sweet intoxication on climate activity in town. All right, so we're gonna get going. So I believe I left off with this slide. Everybody sees it's the community engagement slide. Again, Sophie, just jump in if you don't see anything so I can, just play along if it's not going forward. But again, it was a town effort, committee effort, planning board, select board, everybody was involved, and really a wonderful outcome last May. Did it switch?
No.
It did not switch. I do not understand what is going on. Okay. Well,
If you go back to the PowerPoint, you can just scroll down that page.
I think that's exactly what we'll have to do. Okay, everybody sees my PowerPoint now.
So I see the community engagement slide right
Yep. All right. And everybody sees this next slide.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to do it this way. So anyway, it was a great involvement in community, and really it was a major town investment, and in my opinion, a very clear mandate with what happened with the vote. This slide dictates really how, and I think Mac even mentioned it, the CAP had a 70% yes vote, and the comprehensive plan that was voted this last November, which includes many climate action plan initiatives and actions within it, was an 80% yes vote. So there was just wide support townwide, and again, a clear mandate for the community to move forward on the initiatives and actions as outlined in both the comprehensive plan and as well as the climate action plan. So it's really, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And right now, I believe the town is certainly the select board, and through the budget process, we're trying to get there. Now, the climate action plan, and again, sorry to kind of go over what Max said. He kind of stole my thunder there because I was having issues, but it's really a plan. The climate action plan is really all about adaptation and mitigation, really looking at how we adapt our infrastructure and our economies, and really our health, and how we adapt to this changing climate. And it also looks at mitigating greenhouse gas emissions. And it's very detailed in how we do that. It goes into, as Max said, the 8 focus areas, from buildings to mobility, with 25 goals. And within those goals, there are numerous action items that basically provides that blueprint for how the town should be assessing and trying to evaluate and deal with climate and climate change. So really, what does the town do to move the climate action plan forward? And right now, I think what the town is facing in a lot of regards is a capacity issue. We need the tools and the human resources available to us to help move some of these actions forward. And I think it's very much essential for us to get somebody in the seat to help to coordinate, to pursue funding and financing opportunities, really to assess and report on the climate action plan implementation, and provide oversight and ownership of the plan. It's going to be key. Right now, we just don't have the staff and support to put this and go after a lot of these things, to provide some of these initiatives and actions. And I think it's incumbent that we try to, as a community, as it was clear in the mandate for both the comprehensive plan and the climate action plan, which does specify as an action to look at and hire a sustainability coordinator, or as I have put it through the budget process, as an environmental planner, I think it's incumbent that we try to do that in order to shepherd this plan forward and help provide a town face to do so. So again, that's ongoing right now. There is a budget process, and I do welcome people's taking part in that budget process, as there is a hearing next Thursday. And regarding that, and I'm hoping they reconsider taking the environmental planner position out for consideration by the voters in May. So right now, we're still looking at a capacity issue. Really, there are some things, and I had mentioned this before in the comprehensive plan and the climate action plan. There are shared priority actions. The comprehensive plan is our large blueprint for how the town should finance as well as move forward from a land use perspective, how we grow and develop in the future. And so much is going to be shaped by climate change, that there's really shared initiatives, shared actions in both plans. I always thought it was amazing when I first started here in 2014 that the town of York had a adaptation to sea level rise chapter in their comprehensive plan. We were the first town in the state of Maine to adopt such a chapter in a comprehensive plan. Unfortunately, it did the initiatives and actions that were in there, they kind of got shelved a little bit as information came out and as political will meandered. Really, we weren't jumping to implement many things. Now we're still working hard, and there's still a lot of initiatives in the current comprehensive plan, and obviously it's talked about a lot in the climate action plan. So really, we have to look at that from the planning department and see how can we address that, how can we implement that as it is a priority. Other priority actions have to do with stormwater management and enhancing stormwater requirements through low impact development. We can look at our transportation systems and expand our multimodal capability. The select board will be looking at a kind of a draft idea and concept for complete streets, where we try to ideally get the town to move forward in looking at making streets accessible for all users, from bicyclists to walkers for EV infrastructure to buses and the like. So that's something that's new. And again, there's two shared priority actions. We can enhance our natural resource protection in subdivisions. We've done a good job so far. We require conservation subdivisions when they come to the planning board. That is key for protection of water resources, forest land, and the like. Can we do a better job? Yes, we can do a better job, and the planning board and the planning department will be evaluating how we can link up with that and do a better job of protecting more open space in town and making those corridor connections in town. Again, something that's mentioned in both plans. EV solutions townwide, electric vehicle solutions, again, mentioned in both plans. I think we've heard a lot from state and the feds about this. There's big initiatives out there to try to promote EV all over the state of Maine and federally for that matter. I think we need to be out front in the siting of these, as well as coming up with solutions and grant opportunities as may be available for siting these things. And I think that's talked about in both plans. The big one for me is the promoting development in the designated growth areas. If we think about it, we want to look at where people should be, where this town should be growing. If we're going to promote sprawl, that is really going against, in my opinion, promoting good smart growth, as well as kind of going negative to fighting climate change. We're promoting people to use cars. If we're letting them go into our hinterlands, we should be trying to get people in the downtowns, in our growth areas, which is roughly between the Cape Netick and York Rivers to I-95. So that's basically our growth area where we're looking at where we have sewer infrastructure, where we have resources, where we might have public transportation and the like, and where people, as they move into this wonderful town, where we should maybe trying to be focusing their attentions to. Again, sprawl is bad, and we want to try to do that. Evaluating building code enhancements, that's something that we're doing. We've done already for our sustainable energy efficient buildings for town buildings. Is that something that we look at in spreading to private development, commercial development, multifamily development? We've got to weigh those options with workforce housing and the affordable housing need here in the state of Maine and how that may impact, but it's still something we need to promote and try to get ahead of. And I think we will be evaluating those initiatives very soon. Collaboration, and I know Mac kind of touched on this, but this is big. The select board is going to be evaluating a new committee on Monday night, and that's the Climate Action Committee. Those materials will be up pretty soon, but that Climate Action Committee, a new committee in town, their main focus and attention will be to look at how to implement the climate action plan. So to bring that forward and to have a set committee to evaluate those action items, those focus areas, and to devote a lot of attention to collaborate with our local nonprofits, including York Ready for Climate Action, our Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission, York Land Trust, and as well as collaborate with surrounding towns will be key. For me, obviously, as I mentioned before, it's capacity and ensuring that that committee, which will be the main steward and head from the town's perspective and moving the climate action plan forward, that committee is in need of, in my opinion, staff and an environmental planner, sustainability coordinator type person to help, again, shepherd this forward. So hopefully, and I'm still fingers crossed that that is possible. It will also be incumbent for us to look at and pursue grant opportunities through the Community Resilience Partnership. Again, this is something that's new. I think we can collaborate on that with York Ready for Climate Action, and we already have, and I think there could be certainly mutual interests moving forward as we try to go after and tackle these major initiatives and issues that we're all facing right now. So that's kind of a really high level look at kind of the things that we're looking to do. There are many actions. There are many actions in the comp plan, many actions in the climate action plan. And I hope I leave people with the idea that I think capacity is our tough point in trying to move some of these really important initiatives forward. And I'm hopeful that the townspeople will support the town in trying to get capacity in order to move these initiatives forward and not wait, as we're seeing now with what's happening with climate change around us. So I'm sorry about my PowerPoint, but that's all I got.
Thank you, Dylan. That was super informative and helpful. And I'm glad to have learned more about that. Rozanna, I think that puts you up on the docket now. And at the end, everybody, we will have time for questions, I hope. So, keep them in your brains or put them in the chat if you want to hold on to them for later. But otherwise, we will get to them after we finish up with the spoken portion.
Okay, I've turned my mute off, and I'm hoping that my dog who's sitting next to me is not going to interrupt. I'm feeding her treats as I'm talking here. So can you see the slide?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's hope this works. Okay, so we at York Writing for Climate Action have been working hard on developing an energy coach program. The purpose of which is to help York achieve its goal to cut our carbon emissions in half by 2030 and completely by 2050. Can you see the slides moving forward?
Yes.
Yes.
So the challenge, maybe I should minimize the side photos. Is that better? Okay, so the challenge is, as Mac pointed out, the biggest single source of York's carbon emissions is our homes, mostly heating. So to address that, we need an energy home improvement program. Oops, sorry. The bad news is it's complicated. So how many possibilities are there to choose from? The answer to that, scientifically derived, is exactly 2.384 zillion. That's how complicated the process is. The good news is we still can do it. An in-person energy coaching service will help us do it. EcoHomes has already led the way with 550 households participating in their online programs. With energy coaches, we can take the next step and reduce our energy use, cut our carbon emissions, save money, and improve our home's comfort. More good news, other communities are doing this. A Climate to Thrive on Mount Desert Island is launching a program at the same time we are. In fact, we're collaborating on our programs. Concord, Massachusetts has been at it for a couple of years. They have 2 energy coaches whom they pay, actually. These are paid positions. I think they work about 100 hours a month, and they have now collected some data on how effective their program has been. So we've stolen this idea from other people, and they stole it from other people. They stole it from the Germans, who have been perfecting the art of buildings for decades, and they've made lots of mistakes doing it. So we have the opportunity to not make those mistakes and find our own mistakes to make. Bedford, New York has also a paid energy coach program, and the Heat Smart Alliance in Massachusetts is a network of volunteers who coach homeowners on heat pumps specifically, and they are doing that today in 32 communities across Massachusetts. More good news, there is a lot of information out there and help. Efficiency Maine has done a fabulous job collecting information and posting it on their website, doing public information sessions, and providing financial incentives, rebates, and so forth. The new Inflation Reduction Act is loaded with rebates and tax credits. The graphic that you see on the left is a table summarizing the home features in the Inflation Reduction Act, and you can see it in Rewiring America's guide to the Inflation Reduction Act at rewiringamerica.org/IRA guide. The Governor's Office of Policy Innovation and the Future, GOPIF, is the innovator who started the Maine Community Resilience Partnership. That's the grant program that Dylan mentioned. Maine Housing also has money for low-income families that will guarantee that they have to spend nothing on some of the energy upgrades that are in the plan. So you can see there's financial assistance and lots of information. You can actually go to training sessions sponsored by the Green Home Institute. I was just in one today talking about controlling water when you insulate a building very tightly. The problem becomes preventing mold from moisture and condensation. PassiveHouseMaine.org is holding training sessions, $25 for a day-long training session on that very stringent building standard. Very informative. And there are approximately 3,458,582 articles, books, and flags out there. And that's, I do exaggerate, but not by much. The problem is not too little information. The problem is too much information. How does a homeowner or a householder get through that? Well, the bad news again is the pipeline with that information can get clogged. It's coming along, it's moving along, coming down, but right before it gets to the household, it can get clogged. So sometimes it doesn't get all the way to a consumer. So the good news is the energy coaches are there to help unplug the pipeline. We'll get the energy to you by phone, by email, or in person. And that is why we have energy coaches, to help make sure that you know what you need to know to make decisions about how you want to upgrade your home. But we don't do toilets. Okay, so we're launching the Energy Coach program in March, the March timeframe. We're still finishing off some features of it, but we're getting close. And now that we have an executive director that we've just hired, who is just marvelous, and I happen to see that she's on the call tonight, it's going to help move things along even more quickly. So, all right. Enough of the levity. Let's get down to business. What is the Energy Coach program? It's a free service for York residents. We are neighbors helping neighbors. We're volunteers. And by the way, after this presentation tonight, if you're interested in becoming a coach, let me know. We are not technical experts. We've spent a lot of time trying to be precise about our role in this regard, but we have been trained by industry professionals. We've gone through a half a dozen training programs on various aspects of upgrading a home, and we have a good understanding of the key concepts. So I like to think of it as we know this much more than the average homeowner. So we can answer some questions and we can get answers to other questions from experts in the field with whom we are developing relationships and who have agreed to be on call for our coaches. So we will gather information and document the biggest needs that people have to upgrade their homes. The best solutions. We're going to be gathering case studies. We're going to collect data on how effective the coaching process is. So how many heat pumps get installed as a result of a coach assistance? How much more building insulation is done? How many window and door leaks are sealed? How much solar is installed and how many electric vehicles are purchased. And then at the end of the first year of the program, we're going to evaluate how it went, what went right, what went wrong, what the challenges are that we see going forward, and is it scalable? Can we Can we increase the number of coaches? Can we cover a greater number of homes? Is it a program that can be emulated in other communities across the state? Will the state support doing that? And in this regard, we are also collaborating with A Climate to Thrive and some other, A Climate to Thrive is the group on Mount Desert Island, and some other similar community-driven climate change groups across the state. The folks at A Climate to Thrive, who are just wonderful leaders, have initiated a Local Leads the Way group. We've been meeting periodically to talk about what we're doing in our respective communities and how we can help each other with knowledge and resources and so forth. And that's very promising. So the role is, somebody contacts us and says, okay, I'm interested in upgrading my home's energy profile. But there's this world of information out there and resources that is hard, it's confusing to make sense of. So the role of the coach is to help translate that information so that it's useful to a given home person, smooth out the obstacles in the process for somebody who wants to start an energy upgrade process, make it easier to take that first step, and then to stay with the process and complete an installation of a heat pump, for example. Help connect consumers to installers. The Eco Homes program has established some relationships with installers already. We're developing other relationships with installers as well. And over time, we hope to have partnerships with a number of contractors and installers who, with whom we've had experience and can give a direct account of how they do things, what they do, how they do things, and whether they're appropriate for a given consumer project. And we would stay with the consumer throughout the process. So sometimes things are surprising. There are waiting times that can surprise consumers. Sometimes the price of things is an unpleasant surprise. So part of what we do is try to set realistic expectations for the consumer and then stay with them and follow through, check in on them, see if they need any help, see if the contractor that they had arranged to do business with is responsive and doing what is supposed to be done. And we're going to collect case studies so we can provide that information to other homeowners. And we will also, the coaches will help us evaluate the program and plan changes for the next round in the second year and the third year. So in other words, we want to make it easier. So the consumer doesn't have to worry because we've got you. And that's it, folks.
Thank you very much, Rozanna, for that information about the Energy Coach program. I think that for a lot of people who are intimidated by this process, that's going to be a great support to have as they engage. I know last year with our climate series, there were a number of people who asked questions and kind of just didn't know where to start. And I think that this has identified that need and will provide a friendly face to guide people along. At this time, we have heard from our presenters, and I would like to invite people to unmute or put questions in the chat for Dylan regarding the sort of the town's role in all of this, or Mac or Rozanna about the YRCA and the Energy Coach program. If you have any library questions, feel free to ask me. But we look forward to hearing from you what you are still wondering about. I'll ask a question for Dylan, but for this whole community, I think it's important to recognize that, you know, and a need is identified and it's been, you know, of staffing and support for a position to do some of this important work. What is the best way that this town can advocate for that need at this stage of the budget process?
Geez, I think the budget chair, is she on right now? She's really gonna love me. I would say if you I'd say if you show up, you know, a lot of these times and initiatives in most towns, and I've been a town planner in many towns for a long time now, I think you have to show up. People have to show up to these hearings, to these meetings, and let it be known that this is important initiatives. This is an important theme, and it's important for this community. I think sometimes, you know, you go through the hard work of getting something through, like a climate action plan or a comprehensive plan. And it's like, whoo, hey, we did it. We got it done. All right. You know, but if you don't, you got to stay on top of it and really hold our boards and committees accountable. And so I think as it relates to capacity and trying to implement this climate action plan, as well as many comprehensive plan initiatives, which the environmental planners, sustainability coordinator would do, is to show up at the budget committee meeting, which is the last one there is the 16th of February, and try to get them to reconsider adding that position back into the budget. That can be done. It was a 4-3 vote before. You just need somebody on that 4 side to change their mind, I think, to get it to the voters to consider. And really it's up to the voters, in my opinion, at that point to decide if that's something you want to move forward with. So again, February 16th will be their last public hearing on what's going forward. And hopefully there's support there from all of you and all your friends and everybody else to look at an environmental planner to help steward and shepherd the climate action plan and its initiatives and help the committees and boards and coordination and everything that goes with it moving forward.
Just to support what Dylan is saying, at our recent Local Leads the Way meeting, which is that statewide network that I mentioned, the study that one of the members has done and indicated that lack of capacity is the single biggest barrier to making progress on climate in our state. And so I'd like to add my voice to Dylan's and plead with people to show up at the budget committee meeting on the 16th. There is a public hearing that evening that the budget committee is holding to hear from the community about the budget. So that's the perfect opportunity if you believe that this is important. And I can say that as a volunteer in town dedicated to community-driven action on the climate, York Ready for Climate Action is willing to do heavy lifting, but we have to have somebody at town hall who's a partner. In order to collaborate, it takes more than one person. We need somebody at town hall to work with. And Dylan has been great, and DeCarlo has been great, but they have jobs to do. So we really need that position.
Yeah, just to add to what Dylan and Rozanna said, if perchance you can't make that meeting, you can send an email to the budget committee, and your comments will be read at the committee meeting. To do that, you go to the town website, you bring up the budget committee. They have a list of the members of the committee, and at the bottom of that list, there's something about asking a question of the budget committee. It gives you an opportunity to make a statement there. Yeah, we can speak from experience. When the select board passed the Global Covenant of Mayors, that was an effort of getting a whole bunch of people to show up for a significant select board meeting. But there was an awful lot of work done beforehand with letters written, emails sent, phone calls made. So it's a combination.
And I think the budget committee meetings happen at 6 o'clock in the library community room. I don't know if they have a specific schedule for how they're hearing different items, but that has been their standard meeting time over the past several weeks that they've been doing their budget process. I'm always impressed with how many things York voters do vote on, and it seems like, given the opportunity to have a 76th item on your ballot in May, it might as well be something like this. To at least ask the option of the community. There was a question in the chat about sort of about heat pumps and mini splits. So I'm going to read it. They have one mini split in their house that they use for heat during the shoulder seasons and for AC. Wondering if there's any data about how the recent cold weather from last week affected the York homes that have converted to 100% heat pump. And that's really interesting. We were actually talking about this earlier today of the York Ready for Climate Action Communications Committee. My house is entirely heat pump mini splits. We have two, and they heat our whole house. And we fared very well over the cold season. I was watching, I was nervous, but they were very effective and we stayed very cozy. I will mention that my house in particular also has very good insulation, so that was certainly a benefit. But what I think more importantly to your point and your question is that's a really good question. That's the piece people are nervous about, right, in terms of moving to this kind of system. And that's part of the reason why we're having our next program session on February 22nd, which is specifically about weatherization and heat pump heating, to get some experts in to answer those questions about what that looks like for people who don't have them, what the installation process looks like for people who do have them, what the ongoing sort of concerns might be in terms of converting to that type of system, or relying fully on that type of system. So I would encourage you to come to that program next 2 weeks from today on February 22nd. It'll be on Zoom, and it'll also be recorded on the library's website afterwards. Are there other questions in the audience for any of our presenters?
Sophie, if I can just add to your comments there about the heat pump question. Efficiency Maine did a small study of folks that converted to heat pumps. I think it was over the last winter, maybe over a couple winters, I'm not sure, but the study showed that heating systems are fine. That they respond the way they need to respond in the cold temperatures of Maine. I also can speak from personal experience. I just have one mini split. I also have a wood stove, and the temperature got down to minus 15.2 degrees at my house, and the mini split was still putting out heat. So
I think it would be an interesting survey for our community, though, to find out from people how they have, how they fared, and whose systems, whose didn't. I mean, it's important to sort of know how that all pans out. Well, no one else is jumping in the chat to put in questions, so I will give you one last chance. You're certainly also welcome to unmute and ask a question if you'd prefer. As I mentioned, this is the first of 8 programs. I hope to see you at more of them, including our final program on May 24th, which will be a party of sorts, and there will be delicious food, local food. So if nothing else, mark your calendars for that event. But otherwise, we hope to see you for the, it's the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of February, March, April, and May. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the series continues. A note from Scott in the chat that this is the 4th winter they've had their mini split, and they've had a very, very good experience, but not very effective this weekend. Okay, so not perfect for everybody, but this is good feedback to have and to share and to find out more about. So Anyway, thank you all so much for attending. Last call for questions. Thank you, Dylan and Rosanna and Max, so much for coming out and giving us this information. It was great to hear all the details of what you're working on.
Thank you.
Thanks,
for
everyone.
coming.
Well, it was great.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.